This is AgriCountry, brought to you in part by Alice Chalmers and your nearby Alice Chalmers dealer. And here's your host for AgriCountry, Ed Johnson.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of AgriCountry. We're going to begin today's show by taking you to a very impressive greenhouse operation, Country Acres Greenhouse, just north of Marysville, Ohio, Union County. Then to an excellent grain operation, North Fairfield, Ohio, clear up in Huron County as we visit with Lester Stoneham and Sons. And we'll wrap up today's show by talking with Dr. Bill Swank, the executive head of the Ohio Farm Bureau. Welcome to AgriCountry.
Your Alice Chalmers dealer has offered some powerful reasons to buy an AC 5030 or 5020 diesel-powered tractor. Both of these mighty 25 and 31 horsepower Alice Chalmers diesels give you 12 forward speeds plus differential lock. And right now you'll find big savings on diesel power at your nearby Alice Chalmers dealer's place. We open today's show by taking you about 3 miles north of Marysville, Ohio, Union County, with the Country Acres Greenhouse. And in just a moment, we're going to take you inside and visit with the owner and manager, Bob Wilhelm. Bob, certainly nice to be here with you with all the beauty. How many acres here at the farm?
About 175.
How much under roof?
There's about an acre of greenhouse under roof.
What's the service area?
Well, we do ship into Pennsylvania, Indiana, but mostly Ohio.
Give our viewing friends an idea of all the plants, the flowers, so forth, if that's possible, that might be produced here.
Well, we pretty much grow year-round, probably over 100 or 500 varieties of plants, including all your annuals and vegetable plants, poinsettias, Easter lilies, hanging baskets, nursery stock, it just goes on.
How'd you get into this?
Well, I'm a botanist, plant pathologist, and my grandmother started me when I was little working in her garden, and that's where I've been with plants all my life.
And I think raised in town.
City boy, yes.
Cleveland?
No, Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio.
Well, that's
which
close.
is darn close. Yes.
That is darn close. I also understand that you're in the landscaping business as well.
Yes, one of our areas that we service is landscaping, and we grow plants for in the nursery for landscape areas, and people demanded that we put them in. So we have a landscaping business also.
Which phase of the business are you most interested in? Would it be retail or wholesale?
Well, we're interested in both because both lend a uniqueness to the business where if one is up or one is down, we're pretty much covered during cyclic business.
Bob, we're under plastic. We've been so used to thinking greenhouses and thinking glass.
Well, plastic saves us a lot of money, approximately 50% on fuel. We have 2 layers of plastic here and about 4 to 6 inches in between, and this gives us a fuel savings of about 50%.
Glass is a thing of the past?
In our business, I would say yes.
And probably plastic might be more economical?
Definitely more economical. We can recover a house in about 2 hours total, strapped down, ready to go.
Goodness knows we've had a lot of wind the last couple of months in this part of the state, Bob. Did it give you problems?
No, it flexes with the wind, where glass, there's a vacuum created on the outside of the glass and will suck the glass up. So the plastic flexes we have no problems with.
What about efficiency of sunlight coming through the plastic versus the glass?
It's about 90% efficient compared to glass, and that's enough for almost all the crops that we grow. But it also diffuses the light, which is an added benefit, and also keeps the humidity up a little higher too.
Now, Bob, you've got so much going on here, and you've got this wee little plug. You call them waffles, and I said flat. You said the flat comes later. How long have people been going with the little guy?
Well, this is a brand new concept, and we call it a push-up plug. And we have a machine that actually sows the seed, and it's grown in that little plug that you just showed. And then it's transferred into the flat and grown on for the customer.
So when we talk about into the flat, then we're talking about more of this size. How long would it take to get from the little guy
to the larger one?
Normally it used to be about 8 weeks, and that plant you just showed is about 4 weeks old from going from a plug. So we save 50% of the time.
Bob, when we talk about the little plug, don't you physically move the little plug into the larger flat?
Yes, we do. We have ladies that are very fast at it, and we can actually transplant twice as fast. The little plug allows just no interference with the plant's growth, where before we had to rip the seedlings apart and the root systems apart. And now the plug just keeps on growing, the plant keeps on growing, and ultimately gives the customer a better plant that will do better in the garden.
You talk about garden, where at that time of year, give us an idea of various kinds of vegetable plants that are produced here.
Well, we produce a full range of mainly the hybrid vegetables for the consumer because they're more disease tolerant, they perform better, better production, and in many cases better taste. Any range of vegetables from tomatoes, cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, peppers, just goes on.
And are people going to more gardening?
Yes, they are. They expect to be about 5% more gardens this year because people are finding that the better taste of the food, and also they can have right there fresh produce at a very reasonable price.
Some innovative systems, Bob, regarding irrigation under roof here. Tell us about that.
Well, we have a new one that we installed this year, which is a boom mister, and it's very similar to agricultural field spray booms, and except it is a little more precise, and we can do a few more things with it, introducing warm water for better plant culture, and arranging the speeds of it, and timing is all automated.
Back to the flowers for a moment. I think you said we saw some begonias in another house. That an ounce of seed was $44,000. Did I hear you right?
That's correct. When people talk about the price of seed corn or seed beans, why, they'll find that in this business, seed's a little higher, and that is called nonstop begonia. It was developed in Germany.
Computers are also involved with this operation.
Yes, they are. We have to time the crops pretty exacting because the market period is a very short time, and people want their plants at a certain stage and for the best growth, planning out if it's for retail or wholesale, and also the plugs that we ship all over the United States and Canada.
What's the biggest challenge in the greenhouse business, spring of '82, Bob?
To get everything done in the shortest amount of time, because when spring breaks, it's something inherent in the people and nature that they want plants now, and they want all they can get in the full color and ready for gardening. They go right now.
2 acres under roof. How many people are we talking about to make it happen?
At this time of year, we're running about 40 employees, including myself.
With rat-tailed cactus in hand, we invite you to stay with us because we're going to take you to a 2,000-acre grain operation up in Huron County right after these messages. When you think combine, I want you to think Gleaner. Remember that your Alice Chalmers dealer has both the rotary and conventional in 6 different sizes. The Gleaner gives you more capacity, more productivity, and more value for your dollars invested. See your Alice Chalmers dealer today. My, but do we have a family to share with you on this week's edition of AgriCountry. We're about 10 miles south of Norwalk, Ohio. That's Huron County, far northern Ohio. We're at the Stonehams, and involving this family, on your screen from left to right, there's Dennis, Linda, Leanne, Carol, Leslie, Frances, we may refer to her as Grandma, and then there's Grandpa, and that's Lester, and the 2 grandchildren, Lyndon and Les. Lester, certainly nice to be here with your family, and this is what it's all about, all across Ohio in agriculture. It's families in many situations, families where the boys have come back home and involved in the operation. But how many years have you been farming?
Practically all my life.
And that would be how long? 40, 50 years?
Yeah, 50.
I understand there's no livestock here now. Did you used to have livestock?
Yes, milk cows.
When you milk cows?
Mm-hmm.
Why'd you get out of that?
Just got tired of it, I guess.
But now I understand that the boys are more involved than Dad.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Dad must still get involved in a lot of spring work, some tractor work.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Lester, again, there has to be a start, and Grandpa and Grandma started this entire thing a number of years ago. Want to start, first of all, with Leslie. How many acres in this operation?
There's 1,883 acres.
And how many acres would be owned by the family?
Just under 1,000.
I understand that you have incorporated, which also has become a practice that has been adopted by a number of families across the state of Ohio. How did this family happen to do that?
Well, it's something we've been studying for quite a while. And it's like anything, we had a list of pros and a list of cons, and finally decided that it was the wisest thing to do.
Better than a partnership arrangement.
We had been in a partnership for 10 years, and we thought it was time that we make a switch for liability reasons and also transfer of the farm. We want to keep the operation in existence for a long time, or hope to. And there were employee benefits that would help us out, we thought.
Tax advantages?
Tax advantages, we hope.
Yes, that's right. Dennis, if you'll step in just a little bit closer, let's talk about the field work. Now, it's a bit too wet, or we would be showing some of that on this show today. But give us a breakout of acres of wheat, corn, soybeans.
We have 800 acres of corn, 800 acres of soybeans, and then the balance would be into wheat. And we keep the 3-year rotation then of the crops.
Is there much continuous corn happening in this part of the state anymore?
In some areas in this county, there is quite a bit of continuous corn.
Let's talk about practices. Will you fall plow?
We fall chisel, and all the wheat ground we do plow though. And then in the spring we come back with a disc and then a soil conditioner.
Central Ohio, in fact many areas in Ohio, we're seeing a lot of no-till. Will you fellows move to no-till sometime?
We're looking at it and always keeping abreast of what is happening, and if we feel the time for us to change, we will try it.
What's it like to farm this close to Lake Erie? Are there pros and cons?
We probably have some lake effect as far as the frost in the fall to our advantage, and rain pattern. We fall in line with them. Sometimes we don't fall in line with them.
Now, fellas, when one drives up, you would almost think this is a brand new farmstead, but a second look, Leslie, it looks like the original farmhouse.
It is the original farmhouse. I would say it's around 130 years old.
But the old barns that were here, those are all gone. When did all that happen?
Oh, over a period of time. We put up our first machinery storage in 1973, and then 2 or 3 years ago the main barn came down and we put up another machinery storage. So now all that's left is the house of the original homestead.
Well, I know you fellows have worked very, very closely with the fine people of Seven Limers at Bellevue, and in the background, just a tremendous grain system, an on-farm system. When did that go in, Dennis?
In the summer of '77. It used to be a cornfield back there, and we started from scratch. We had no bin or green storage on the farm at all, and we went all the way.
How many bushels of on-farm capacity do we have here?
150,000.
Is that enough?
Yes.
Do you think, Dennis, you will expand this or need to expand it?
It was designed that we could expand it. In the original plans, there were bins drawn in that if we did need more extra space, they could be put in.
How did you decide? And I think right now, Leslie and Dennis, with the acreage reduction program, storage is a critical kind of thing on farms, and farmers right now are looking at drying systems, looking at bin systems. You went with continuous flow.
That's
Why?
correct. Volume of grain, I would say. We're just able to handle grain fast that way, dry it. We don't, when it's time to harvest, we want to harvest.
Has it been a good investment?
It sure has. We don't regret it.
Francis, I'm impressed with the fact that, being the grandmother, that you would be the one working in the control room of the grain handling system here at the farm. When I look at all this, it must have taken a great deal of planning.
Yes, it did. It took a lot of planning. We used to haul all our grain into the local elevator, and I was the truck driver for that. But then the waiting lines got so long, so we knew we were going to have to make a change.
It seems to be a very complete plan. How many years might you have put into it? You and Lester and Leslie and Dennis and the wives as well?
Probably 10.
So a long time.
A long time. Mm-hmm.
All right, let's assume that we've brought a load of corn in on the truck, load of soybeans. Take us from there.
Okay. I weigh the load first. We have a digital scales. Each load is weighed as it's brought in, and then I'm ready for the dumping.
And you'll dump it where? Let's assume corn now.
Corn, all right. Using my control panel buttons, I can put the corn into the wet holding bin, into the dryer, and then into the permanent bin we're going to store it in.
And when that corn comes out of the dryer, what moisture will it be?
Probably 14.
Once you put that into that permanent bin, Frances, will you leave it there?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
At least you hope so.
Right. We have never had to move any grain because of hot spots or spoilage or anything. But we feel it's because of the equipment that we have to check the grain.
How do you know when a bin's full?
We have a pressure switch on all of our bins, and there's a light that shows on the control panel when the bin is full.
How much would these bins hold that you're talking about?
Well, we have some that hold 41,000 bushel, some that hold 25,000 bushel, some hold 15,000.
How long did it take you to really understand this whole electronic control system here?
I'm still learning.
It certainly seems to be fascinating.
It is. It's remarkable how you can move grain and not see it.
Would you recommend to other grandmothers who are out on the farm that they would get involved in this kind of thing?
If they like working outside and working with the farm angle, definitely. And I do.
It beats running the sweeper, doesn't it?
It beats cooking.
Leslie, I know in the conversation that we had before doing the program, the quality of grain, in fact, Mother even tests the grain. When we're talking about on-farm systems, quality is so important. How do you keep this grain in condition?
Well, first of all, we want to know the quality of that grain going into the bins. And as Mom said, she does take the moisture check on each load as it comes in. So we know what grain's going into the dryer. Then we want to know what grain is coming out of the dryer also. And then as it goes into the bin, in the fall, as the outside temperature starts to drop, then we'll turn those fans on and cool that grain down. And we have temperature cables in each bin. And we can watch that temperature come down. We're drawing air down in the bins, and as that cool air moves through the bins, we see it come down on the cables. So
this is at harvest?
This is at harvest. And
what do you do in the winter now?
In the winter, well, we check the bins every Monday morning. That's just like going to church. Every Monday morning we check the bins, check the temperatures, and I walk in at least one of the bins, the top of the bins, just to look at the grain, smell the grain, just to make sure what condition that grain is in.
Now, as we move into that time of the year where we're looking at much warmer weather, with the grain that's on storage now, will your process be any different than it was during the winter?
Well, when we're sure that the weather has settled out, it has warmed up, then we'll turn those fans on again and warm that grain up to about 50 degrees. We don't wait till it gets 70 and then warm the grain up, but about 50 degrees.
If you put it in at 14% moisture, is there a chance that it can get too dry on you?
Too dry? Well, it's too dry already at 14. But if we're going to hold that grain during the summer, we feel safer having it at that moisture. Now, we won't dry it that dry if we're going to haul it out before summer.
Would, for any reason, Leslie, you switch grain from one bin to another for condition purposes?
Would we do that?
Yes.
I suppose we would, and we're equipped.
If you
here.
discovered a problem.
Yes, and we're equipped so that we can do that here also. That's why we have different size bins, so that we can be versatile and do things like this.
Do you like to keep grain more than a year?
We've held, just with the 5-year experience, we've held very little grain over that period, but we did it successfully.
The new 8000 series tractors from Alice Chalmers deliver 360-degree visibility and a sleek new styling with big, quiet, comfortable cabs. Enter from either side and carry enough fuel for a day's work. And here's the new 390 corn planter, available in 8, 12, 16, or 24-row units for accurate, conventional, or no-till planting. See your Alice Chalmers dealer today.
The AgriCountry cameras now take you into downtown Columbus, headquarters of the Ohio Farm Bureau, and our guest, longtime friend, Dr. Bill Swank, who is the executive head. And a number of weeks ago, Bill, you took county Farm Bureau presidents from all over Ohio to Washington. One of the real concerns, how in the world are we going to move this surplus grain, surplus agricultural products to customers overseas? And a real story also needed to be told to the State Department. What was accomplished?
Well, we did a lot of good because the State Department then said, we understand your complaint being that the President keeps talking about embargo and sanctions. Grain simply hadn't been moving since December 16th, and prices were terrible, and they said, okay, your recommendation is that the President make clear what his policy would be should there ever be an embargo, and we'll let you know within 7 to 10 days. And Ed, within about 5 days, the President did clarify the policy, and we've had exports moving again. His clarification simply was, we won't have any embargoes unless we have an all-out, he might as well said, declared war, and unless all the allied countries share it with us. And with that, I think that's clear enough.
You also surfaced an idea, Bill, that we ought to have an ambassador for American agricultural products, and that was kind of passed on to the American Farm Bureau. What kind of progress can you express there?
Well, again, good progress, because the American Farm Bureau picked up the idea. They said, first, let's send our presidents, every state president, either to Japan or to Europe, to kind of pave the way for this export ambassador that would be funded by farmers themselves. And those trips were designed so that new customers might be found. Sometimes getting rid of some of the trade barriers that the Japanese certainly have, and getting our presidents ready to promote the idea back in their own states, because we want to have good support for this export ambassador. And we're simply saying, have a person of high caliber that can talk to the president of any country, that knows our own grain situation and our own dairy and livestock and so forth, and either can arrange some deals, whether they be barter or cash, we don't care. Let's just get something moving from agriculture's point of view, not government. The government has so many entanglements, and farmers ought to be able to have their own goodwill ambassador in the field, make some sales. It'd be good for the country. It'd be good for the farmer. It'll be good for our prices, and we surely need that.
Bill, certainly nice to have you on the broadcast. Our guest, Dr. Bill Swank, the executive head of the Ohio Farm Bureau.
Certainly nice to have you with us for today's AgriCountry. In fact, if you have a suggestion as to somebody's farm that we might visit and feature here on the show, just drop us a note to ABN-TV, 1819 West Lane Avenue, Columbus, Ohio, 43221. Next week, we're going to begin the show by sharing with you a new method called surface blending. And then we're going to take you into Knox County. We've not been to Knox County. And we'll visit with the family of Jim Shipley. And also, next week's edition of AgriCountry, we'll visit with the executive head of the Ohio Power and Equipment Dealers, Bill Davison. Join us next week for AgriCountry.
Thank you for joining us today for AgriCountry with Ed Johnson, brought to you in part by Alice Chalmers and your local Alice Chalmers dealer. AgriCountry recognizes farm families who produce daily our abundant food supply.